مرحبا طلاب. محاضرتنا لهذا اليوم حيكون الجزء الثاني من Neoplasia, and we shall discuss the items invasion, metastasis and effects of tumors. Objectives. First, define invasion and metastasis. Describe the mechanisms facilitating invasion and metastasis. And what are the roots and common sites of metastasis? Describe the local effects of benign and malignant neoplasm, and finally describe the systemic effects of neoplasms. So if we want to define invasion, it is the ability of cells to break through basement membrane and then spread through the stroma. What I mean by the stroma is the extracellular matrix. From the stroma, it is either spread into the surrounding tissue, and in situ carcinoma, it will be converted into invasive carcinoma, but it is still in the tissue surrounding the primary focus of a tumor, or it will be invade the lymphatics or vascular channels and forming a remote metastatic foci. All of these invasion and metastasis are characteristic features of malignant cells. So how do cells invade and spread? Put in your mind that the invasion is the process that takes place before metastasis. Invasion and then metastasis. So how do cells invade and spread? This is a relatively complex mechanism involving various factors. First of all, malignant cells do not stick to the same extent as the normal cell, and we described the loss of adherence in the previous session. Also, there is altered in the synthesis of enzymes that break basement membrane and stroma. There are several factors produced by the malignant cell themselves and help these cells to become more motile. We call it a motility factors. And malignant cells, they show a change in their interaction with the surrounding stroma, so it can be facilitate the process of invasion. Starting with the altered cell adhesion. This diagram or this picture showing to you the normal cell and multiple adhering molecules or the glue between two cells and the basement membrane. This line at the base, it is a basement membrane. We have several adhesive molecules between cell and cell and between the cell and the basement membrane. This adhesion will be altered in malignancy. So there is a loss of adhesion or discohescence. We call it malignant cells. It will be not adhered to one other as in normal cells. We have several molecules involved in the adherence. The most famous one, مجموعة من المولekules, we call it cadherins. Cadherins are calcium dependent glycoproteins present at the cell membrane. They are interact homotypically between cells to bind them together. Yani we have cadherin specific for certain cells. It will adhere this cell to another cell of the same type, homotypical adherence from the same group of cells. And this cadherin اللي هي extracellular domain بها, it linked to actin cytoskeleton inside the cell by a molecule we call it catenin. In malignancy, there is reduced expression of these adhering molecule or altered in the structure of these adhering molecule lead to decrease the interaction in the cancer cells, allowing the cells to move from each other or to move apart. Altered cadherin expression or reduced cadherin expression are commonly seen in carcinoma of the esophagus, colon, breast, and prostate. This slide, you show the structure of cadherin. As I said, it is named for calcium-dependent adhesion. It is a type of cell adhesion molecule اللي احنا abbreviation مالتها CAM, CAM, that is important in the formation of adherence junctions or what we call zonular adherence, and this binds the cell to each other, as I said. Cadherin, as I said, it's a class of type 1 transmembrane protein. They are dependent of calcium ion to function, hence their name. And cell-to-cell adhesion is mediated by extracellular cadherin domain هذا اللي مبين عندنا بالgreen color, whereas the intracellular cytoplasmic tail associated with a large number of adapter and signaling proteins اللي هي عندنا actin, and it is connected to actin by a molecule we call it cadherin. They found, as I said, cells that containing a specific cadherin, they say subtype tend to cluster together to the exclusion of other type in a homotypical manner. This is another diagram showing the or extracellular domain of cadherin molecule, adhering molecule, which is a calcium dependent, and the intracellular part, which is connected to actin by a cadherin molecule. So how we investigate for the loss of cadherin in the microscopically under the microscope. We have a special stain by immunohistochemical stain that is responsible for the detection of E-cadherin. فهنا عندنا هذا الدايجرام اللي هو the first picture, the upper one, it is H&E stain for lobular carcinoma of the breast, and this carcinoma is characterized by loss of E-cadherin as it يعني مبين عندنا بالصورة الثانية إنه ما ماخذ أي ستين عندنا التشيو، معناته ما ماخذ أي ستين معناته there is no cadherin expression. These molecules are altered and reduced in lobular carcinoma of the breast. The other adhesive molecule is the integrins, which are cell surface glycoprotein composed of two subunits, alpha and beta subunit. Integrin are transmembrane receptors, facilitate cell to extracellular matrix adhesion, and upon ligand binding, integrins will activate signal transduction pathways that mediate the cellular signals, such as the regulation of cell cycle, organization of intracellular cytoskeleton, and movement of new receptors to the cell membrane. Integrin have many biological functions like leukocyte adhesion, platelet adhesion, especially in process of acute inflammation. Also, it is receptors for different components of the basement membrane like fibronectin, collagen, and reduced expression of integrin will modify the contact between the cell and the stroma, allowing the movement of the cells. The third factor involved in the invasion process of invasion, it is what altered enzyme synthesis and interaction. We have different enzyme can modify the stroma, allowing the cell to break through the basement membrane and spread. And these enzymes, we call it, the most famous one is the matrix metalloproteinases. These enzymes digest collagen, allowing the metastatic cell to digest the extracellular matrix and move to and break through the basement membrane. These are zinc-dependent enzymes. We have several types like matrix metalloproteinase 2 and 9 responsible for collagen 4 digestion, and matrix metalloproteinase 1 responsible for collagen 1 digestion. The third factor involved in the invasion is the motility of the cells, and after the cell have been break down the basement membrane and get into the extracellular matrix, it needs to be motile so that it can reach to other site or can invade through to other site or reach to the blood vessel. And this is achieved by several factors, cell-mediated motility factors like autocrine signaling factors, or cleavage products of matrix protein like laminin, other ligands like WNT5A in melanoma اللي هي malignant skin tumor, increased expression of receptors for motility factors, for example, MET oncogene or HGF receptors. All of these making the cell more motile. In this figure, on the your left side or figure A, you can see the epithelial cell, normal epithelial cell, are arranged a polarized cell, all the cell in one direction, and it adhere basolaterally to one another atop a basement membrane, forming a barrier that separates the lumen and stromal compartment of parenchymal tissue. This is normal. In case of neoplasia, اللي هو figure B, there is a progressive loss of these tight junctions, and adherence junctions accompanies a proliferation in situ. So بالبداية راح يصير عندنا loss of polarity or loss of adherence, so that there will be loss of polarity. يعني بدل ما السيل كلها باتجاه واحد راح نشوف انه السيل راح تكون بعدة اتجاهات. So there is loss of polarity, but at the beginning in situ مثل ما قلنا بالمحاضرة السابقة, it is still limited to the basement membrane. As the primary tumor expand, the cell response loss to the to the loss of E-cadherin and release of beta-catenin undergoing epithelial mesenchymal transition that enable the redistribution of integrin. يعني راح يصير عندنا secretion of a substance اللي هو beta-catenin, فراح يصير عندنا redistribution of integrin. الانتجرين بروفايل اللي هو يطلع لنا من البيزمنت membrane, فإنه راح يصير to release from the basement membrane, and also نشوف انه الانتجرين راح يبدي يسحب السيل to the extra, يعني من البيزمنت membrane يسحبها الى extracellular matrix, and this it will be propelled, the cell will be propelled to the extracellular matrix, وبمساعدة الانزيمز اللي هي مثل عندنا البروتياز it will degrade the stroma, و there will be upregulation of certain molecules that facilitate the interaction ما بين mesenchymal cells and the malignant cells. So there will be a progressive or progression of the process of invasion. By this way, the malignant cells can get access to the stroma. It is can get access by to the stroma. This diagram showing the mechanism of circulating a tumor cell, how the cell get access to the blood vessels. We have two mechanisms. A tumor cell may be passively introduced into the circulation if we see, إذا نتبع هذا الخط الأزرق المنقط اللي هو يمثل لنا إنه focus of malignancy, and the tumor cell directly invade into the يعني تدخل رأسا بالبلد vessels. أو sometimes it may be actively seek out nearby blood vessels. It will get the other line إنه راح يصير بها invasion and then migration and find another blood vessel and intravasation into the lumen of another blood vessel. So this is how the malignant cells get access or get inside the blood vessel, either by passive process or by active process. الactive process اللي هي تشمل لنا sequence migration, invasion and intravasation inside the blood vessel. Importance of extracellular matrix. Extracellular stroma is not an inert passive component of invasion. It may promote or it may inhibit invasion. So this is very important, extracellular matrix. Manipulated by malignant cells to aid their passage, either by secreting growth promoting factors, or by secreting several angiogenic factor, or by secreting chemotactic factors. So this is the factors, all of these are secreted by the extracellular matrix and helping in the process of invasion and later on metastasis. The other objective of our lecture is metastasis. What is metastasis? Metastasis is the ability of malignant cells to invade, تلاحظون هذه, to invade where, not in the extracellular matrix, no, to invade into lymphatic or blood vessels and cavities and spread to distant site, remote site, مناطق بعيدة عن the primary focus of tumor. Cell must be able to invade out of channels and grow at distant site. يعني أول شيء هي لازم تدخل البلد vessel and later on get outside from this blood vessel and it will settle down in another remote focus from the primary tumor site. Not all circulating cancer cells will settle at the distant site and be able to grow. There should be a certain proper environmental factors or help these cells to grow and forming another focus of malignancy. So why don't all malignant cells metastasize? Malignant cells may get to distant site, but environment may be not appropriate for their growth, either due to incorrect receptors or metabolic factors or failure of angiogenesis. يعني انت راح توصل لفد منطقة بس ما راح تشوف الانفايرمنت الملائمة إلها بسبب انه الانكوركت ريسبتور او الميتابوليك فاكتورز او الميتابوليك انفايرمنت ما موالمتها او there is failure of angiogenesis. There is no blood supply so that it can grow and make a focus of metastasis. Regarding angiogenesis, once a tumor has reached 1 to 2 square millimeter, its growth is halted. This is due to lack of nutrients and oxygen. من يوصل إلى مرحلة 1 to 2 square millimeter, their growth is halted because of there is no more oxygen or nutrients. This alters the tumor's microenvironment, making it hypoxic. This causes upregulation of pre-angiogenesis factor اللي هو أشهر واحد عندنا angiopoietin or VEGF, vascular endothelial growth factor. So this will promote the formation of a new small blood vessel to maintain the growth of malignant cells. And due to various factors produced by the cancer cells, as I said, this new blood vessel will be formed. هل angiogenetics أو newly formed blood vessels can help invasion? Because these vessels is not a properly done vessel. It is not a mature vessel. يعني شلون واحد مسوي فشي على السرعة الوول مالتها is not intact as a normal blood vessel. So because their wall is thin, it can help the process of invasion and aids growth of metastasis. Of course يعني هو objective focus of malignant cells. راح تبدي عندنا nutrients and oxygen come again ويبدي عندنا metastasis. And also angiogenesis, it is a target for certain therapeutic agents like thalidomide in renal cell carcinoma. We have certain drugs will concentrate on the or attack the angiogenesis, anti-angiogenic factor. So when احنا راح نقطع البلاد supply عن التيومر, it will be halted or die. This is the importance of angiogenesis. نرجع للميتاستاسيس. It is we have certain terms. A primary من أقول لكم primary معناتها site where the malignant neoplasm arise. Example: breast, stomach, colon, liver, and so on. نقول secondary. This is a secondary metastasis. من أقول secondary, it is equal to metastasis. For example, a breast carcinoma spread to another organ, like to the lung, to the liver, to the brain, to the bone, and so on. So these terms is very important in the neoplasia. A primary هو السايت of a primary tumor. Secondary, you should be familiar with the term secondary. من أقول لك secondary تخلي بالك إنه this is a metastatic foci, remote from the primary site. What are the routes of metastasis? Either lymphatics, blood vessels, or coelomic spaces. What I mean by coelomic spaces, the pleural cavity, peritoneal cavity, through the body cavities. All of these we call coelomic spaces. Through the lymphatics, it could be to the by the lymphatic channel either to the local lymph nodes or distant lymph nodes. توصل secondary metastasis to the either local lymph nodes or secondary lymph nodes, and usually the route of lymphatic spread is a common route for the spread of carcinoma. Common route for spread of carcinoma is by lymphatics. This slide هاي الأروز black arrow ده تأشر لنا على فد dilated lymphatic vessels, and السيلز اللي بداخلها هي it is malignant cells get access in the lymphatic vessels. This is a case of invasive ductal carcinoma of the breast. Invasive ductal carcinoma of the breast with lymphatic invasion. The other type of invasion is by vascular spread. Spread takes place through the capillaries, because the capillaries is the thinnest blood vessel that it can malignant cells can readily get access through it, and from it to the larger veins and various organs. Common sites are the lung, liver, bone, and the brain. From the by a blood vessel it will go to another organs مثل liver والlung والbone and the brain. Vascular spread to the lung can occur with a wide range of malignant neoplasms. مثل ايش؟ مثل عندنا sarcomas, commonly عندنا الاوستيوساركوما اللي هي malignant tumor of the bone, carcinomas like breast, stomach, large intestine, kidney اللي هي عندها فد characteristic features, radiological findings, secondary spread of renal cell carcinoma to the lung, cannonball-like appearance, and from the testes we call it اللي هي عندنا commonest malignant teratoma. So these tumors commonly spread to the lung via vascular spread. This picture or this photograph showing transection of the lung, and these whitish multiple whitish nodule. طبعا السكندري يصير multiple nodules عكس البرايمري. يعني if we want the primary of the lung عادة نشوف 1 to 2، بس من نشوفها multiple nodules this is go with the secondary focus of the or secondary metastatic foci. Another focus of lung, and all of these whitish nodule are secondary foci of tumor or metastatic foci of a tumor. Regarding the vascular spread to the liver, common sites carcinoma that's commonly spread to the liver, we have the large intestine and via the portal vein. We have bronchial carcinoma from the lung and the breast carcinoma. These are the commonest carcinoma that is spread to the liver. This picture also from the liver biopsy showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 8 nodules of secondary metastatic foci. Another picture of the liver, and the whole architecture are lost by these multiple frequent secondary foci to the liver. ماخذ الليفر كلها السكندري metastatic foci. Regarding the vascular spread to the bone, it can cause destruction to the bone with osteolytic lesion like bronchial carcinoma, breast carcinoma, thyroid carcinoma, or renal cell carcinoma, or it can cause a production of dense bone or what we call it osteosclerotic lesion or osteosclerosis like prostatic carcinoma. This picture of from the vertebrae with osteolytic bone lesion. This is a radiological picture of the brain, and the other one is the gross or macroscopical picture of the secondary metastatic focus or tumor to the brain. The other objective is what effects do tumors have. This depends. هاي effects of the tumor تعتمد على the site of the tumor, the extent of local spread, site of metastasis, extent of metastatic spread, and functional effects. In certain sites, small tumor, يعني even tumor by يعني 2 to 3 centimeter, it have a devastating effects, like those patients with pituitary gland adenoma or carcinoma. السبيس مالتها البيتيوتري جلاند اللي هي قاعده في منطقه كلش ضيقه، فاني انكريز بالفوليوم مالتها راح تضغط على الابر يعني structures and cause يعني pressure effects. People can survive for sometimes with very extensive metastatic spread لما عندنا المنطقة اللي صاير بها spread أو it is large site. مثلا عندنا الابدومين large tumor in the abdomen, the patient can survive for several يعني for sometimes على الرغم إنه الtumor can reach for مثلا 20 centimeter or 25 centimeter or forming a very large or big mass. So it depends on the site. It can cause local effects of benign neoplasm. نجي على benign neoplasm هي either it can cause compression and pressure atrophy like altered function in pituitary adenoma, or in hollow viscous such as the intestine. It can cause complete or partial obstruction. Also, benign tumor present with ulceration of the mucosa, and this ulceration will lead to bleeding, or it forming a space occupying lesion in the brain. This is a picture of benign meningioma. It forming meningioma, it is a benign tumor, and it forming a space occupying lesion. Patient usually with neurological manifestations, because as I said the skull is a limited space, فأني زيادة بالsize راح يدينا pressure effect on the other brain substance and come with the neurological manifestation. This is a leiomyoma of the uterus. It is a benign tumor of a smooth muscle, and also it can present, if it is reached to a very large size, patient could present with the hemorrhage or could present with a pressure effects. While the local effects of malignant neoplasm locally, I mean local effect, is still at the primary site, there is no metastasis in malignant neoplasm, it tends to destroy the surrounding tissue. عكس البناين. البناين it invade by pressing on the adjacent. ما تسوي بيها invasion، ما تسوي destruction، وحتى متى تسوي destruction تسوي destruction by pressing on the adjacent organs or on the adjacent tissue. While the malignance لا تسوي invasion، it invade and become a part of the adjacent tissue or organs. In hollow viscous, it causes partial also or complete intestinal obstruction and constriction. So تضيق بالlumen of the intestine. It can present as ulcer, or it infiltrate around the nearby blood vessels or nerves and lymphatics, and of course a space occupying lesion in the brain حالها حال benign tumor. This is the local effects of malignant neoplasm. This photograph for skin ulcer, there is ulceration, loss of continuity of the skin with this ugly shape fungating neoplasm. هذه هنا عندنا intestine biopsy from the colon, and we have هذا اللي عليها الارو البلو color. عندنا ماس مسوية constriction، مسوية polypod growth inside the lumen with constriction to the lumen، بسوي تضيق باللومن، constriction to the lumen. This is a tumor from brain presented with foci of hemorrhage and forming a space occupying lesion. This is a malignant glioma of the brain. Regarding the systemic effects of neoplasms, could be hematological. Patient could present with anemia. This anemia could be due to ulceration, which occur in both benign and malignant tumors, or due to infiltration of the bone marrow. The normal bone marrow اللي هو factory for the production of blood RBC, it will be occupied by malignant cells, like in cases of leukemia or in cases of secondary metastasis to the bone marrow. Or patient present with hemolysis. By hemolysis, I mean intravascular destruction of RBC. Patient could present with other hematological findings is low white cell count and the platelet count due to infiltration of bone marrow, or this due to treatment, chemotherapeutic agent could lead to low white BC count, or thrombosis, like in case of carcinoma of the pancreas. نيجي على systemic effects of a neoplasm. We have several systemic effects. The first one is endocrine effects due to excessive secretion of certain hormones. We have, and this hormone could be secreted by benign as well as the malignant neoplasm of endocrine gland. يعني عندنا احنا endocrine glands, and whether there is a benign or malignant neoplasm صار بيها، هذا النيوبلازم راح يبدي secrete the same hormone or specific to that gland. For example, عندنا الباراثايرويد hormones, corticosteroids, all of these will be secreted by certain glands. And we have what we call ectopic hormone secretion. Ectopic hormone secretion is the secretion of certain hormones in organs that is not specific or not specific to secrete that hormone. Like مثلا secretion of adrenocorticotrophic hormone ACTH by small cell carcinoma of the bronchus. احنا عندنا البرونكس او اللنج هي ما مسؤولة عن secretion of ACTH، بس مرات يصير بها فد type of a tumor or carcinoma, we call it a small cell carcinoma. Sometimes this small cell carcinoma secrete a type of hormone اللي هو ACTH and producing the symptoms of that excessive hormone. راح يصير عندنا ectopic hormone secretion. Or also small cell carcinoma of the bronchus, it secretes a parathyroid hormone or PTH. Parathyroid hormone is secreted by a parathyroid gland. But small cell carcinoma of bronchus will lead to sometimes increase the PTH level. Also here the small cell carcinoma, the famous one in the secretion of ectopic hormones. أيضا antidiuretic hormones also can be secreted by small cell carcinoma of the bronchus. So this is what we endocrine أو hormonal effects in the tumor, either excessive secretion of hormones from the benign or malignant neoplasm of endocrine glands, or ectopic hormone secretion and secretion of hormones from tissue that is not specified to secrete that hormones. Regarding the systemic effects of a neoplasm, also we have cutaneous manifestations like increased pigmentation in gastric ulcer and other tumor, herpes zoster, lymphoma, pruritus could be due to jaundice, or in case of Hodgkin lymphoma, dermatomyositis in carcinoma of the bronchus. This is a picture of herpes zoster that is occur in several types of a tumor. Still in the systemic effects of a neoplasm, we have neuromuscular manifestations, we have sensory or sensory motor neuropathies. Patient might present with myopathy and myasthenia اللي هي weakness of the muscle, progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy, and these changes may mimic metastasis to the brain. How these there are several also there are several systemic effects like cachexia اللي هي loss of weight, muscle atrophy, loss of appetite in someone who is not actively trying to lose weight. This is the definition of cachexia. Cachexia, the mechanism by which cachexia is developed is unknown. Other systemic manifestation is malaise, اللي هي feeling of general discomfort or uneasiness يعني. البايركسيا, الفيفر, اللي هي these effects or systemic effects, the mechanisms are يعني largely are not known or unknown till now. So why do neoplasm kill people? Simply, it's due to local effects, like in the brain, can press on a center in the brain and causing death, or like perforation in certain type, like in intestine, in the colon, or due to hemorrhage. All of these can occur in cases of benign or malignant neoplasm, or replacement of essential body organs, bone marrow, lung tissue, liver parenchyma. All of these occur in cases of malignancy. So the benign, usually benign, it is not kill people, but have a certain, if it killed by usually by local effects, but the malignancy, it kill people by replacement of essential body organs like bone marrow, lung tissue, liver parenchyma, and so on. And thank you very much for your listening.